I am feeling privileged to invite Dr. Shravan Kumar sir, has retired as a professor and director of School of Social Sciences. Apart from this, he is also associated with many other universities like ARSD College, University of Delhi, Department of Economics, Faculty of Social Sciences, BHU, GLA College, Ranchi University. He is having experience of teaching, research, and writing spread over 5 decades. He is having a field of interest in the field of current problems of Indian economy and policy relating to fiscal, monetary, and financial and external sector. He had also participated in teleconferencing, audiovisual program, and phone-in program of Akashwani and IGNI. He is also having a membership of Indian Economic Association, Indian Institute of Public Administration, Regional Economic Association, Bihar, Haryana, and Rajasthan, Indian Political Economy Association, Indian Society of Labor Economics, Kautilya Foundation, New Delhi. Sir, I welcome you uh, to give your address on the topic of agriculture and the problems and issues of agriculture and the policies. I welcome you, sir.
Let me first extend my thanks to the organizers of this seminar. And for this, I am also thankful to Dr. Gautam Naresh because he introduced me for this webinar. My topic is on Indian agriculture. And here I am first giving a kind of background. After that, one can think of what should be the shape after this post-pandemic situation. So let me start first, and I should say that agriculture has been in focus for both positive and negative reasons. Further, you have to know that the farmers have observed the country's policy from the sidelines. They are often constrained by the policies that outlived the economic realities within which they were designed. Now, if you look at the performance of agriculture, I'm going to the positive side of this. You remember the Green Revolution was there that helped the country to remove the problem of food. Then, if you move forward, today you find that we have moved to certain allied agriculture activities which relate to animal husbandry, dairying, fisheries, and this led to what you can say white revolution in the country. Now this milk production actually helped the women folk more, marginal farmers more, and this is very important achievement for the country. Again, if you see that in addition to this farming, we have meat, poultry, fisheries development in recent times. Fish production has increased very fast, and you also notice that today the crop production is around 275.7 million tons. Along with this, there is change or revolution in the field of pulses, which we are now producing around 24 million tons. Besides this, if you see today, the horticulture is producing more than the crop sector. And here the production is about 305 million tons during the year 2016-17. Similarly, production of fruits, vegetables, all have increased. So this can be very helpful to the development of the rural economy. And in this way, one cannot overstate the importance of rural sector in our economy. This is visible also because this empowers the consumer and agri-product companies, and also powers India's booming scooter and motorcycle and consumer electronic markets. So one cannot underplay the role of agricultural growth in improving rural incomes and securing India's food and nutritional needs. The Indian agriculture and grocery market is huge. It is the world's sixth largest, with retail contributing around 65 to 70% of the sale. Similarly, exports of agriculture goods constitute 10% of countries' exports. In this way, if you see the agriculture today and its positive aspects, so there are three significant transformation. You can call them structural in nature. Number one, diversification from agriculture to allied activities like livestock and fisheries. Second, diversification within the agriculture sector. And third one, a structural change from agriculture and allied to rural non-farm sector. However, nearly 80% of non-agricultural farm households depend on single source of income. So the Indian farming is characterized by a small holding character, which is prominent in the early decades as well as even today. While the sector has achieved much, smallholders have not been able to exploit the opportunities opening to them. They remain hampered by low productivity and underdeveloped food processing and retail sector and water and environmental degradation. Having said this about the performance and positive aspects, let me say something about problems of agriculture. There are many, I'm just pointing out some of them. See, first of all, problem of agriculture is deep rooted, and India is plagued by several problems. Some of them are natural and some of them are man-made. Further, farming has never been a profitable business for a large majority of cultivators in India. However, agriculture continues to be the mainstay of the rural economy even after 3 decades of liberalization. The neglect of agriculture is tantamount to the neglect of the entire rural economy. Here you have to see that agriculture problem is deepening. There is a mismatch between the way farmers perceived by policymakers, the media and the general public. Agriculture in India has an image problem. The specific issues briefly are as follows. There is a high and persistent variation in agricultural prices across the country and widely varying implementation of national price support policies across different states and even districts within a state. Productivity growth lags behind that of the other countries in the region. Agriculture productivity varies dramatically across India, often being well below the technology frontier. Next is agriculture finance and financing inefficiencies. Then agriculture is having a very large problem about agricultural market, which is constrained by price realization for farmers. Supply chains are long and fragmented. There is an inefficient value chain in agriculture, wastages across the entire agriculture value chain. There is a decline in public investment in agriculture. Side by side, there is adverse terms of trade. Fragmented land use patterns persist and farmers seems to be trapped in their low income occupation, unable to exit. India seems to produce an excess of export agricultural crops that are intensive in scarce resources such as water and land. We must remember we are exporting rice, and this basmati rice requires so much water. Similarly, you find that there is a farmers' protest, but despite that, farmers' incomes languish. Other problems are gaps in physical infrastructure, reliable power, cold storage, roads and transport system, linkages to input markets and domestic downstream sectors are weak, depletion of natural resources, changing agro-climatic conditions. Above all this, the political economy problem is very crucial and complicated one. Those providing inputs and often also controlling the purchase of outputs remain the politically decisive determinant of policy choices and implementation. Productivity gaps are also related to input price distortions, particularly those of fertilizers. The uncomfortable truth is that farm incomes have been unviable for a long time now. Irrigation has become a binding constraint. Extreme weather events like drought and floods are becoming more unpredictable and more frequent. Climate change has become imminent, and in the long run, it can adversely affect the productivity of crops. Cropping patterns are distorted, with farmers growing those crops that fetch a better minimum support price, that is MSP. It will also hit agricultural exports and that those on farm products. Farmers suffer more, mind it, in the marketing of their produce than in producing it. The challenge is that a good crop does not necessarily mean that incomes will increase. The slowdown in agricultural finance after 2008 appears to be due to a loan waiver which led bankers to be more conservative in lending to farmers. Agri credit has been much too skewed in favor of crop loans at the cost of allied agriculture activities. Indian producers have suffered a net negative impact of subsidies amounting to 14% of farm receipts from the year 2001 to 2017. This is in sharp contrast with the positive producer support over 19% in European Union, about 15% in China, and 9% in United States. Domestic marketing regulations and restrictive agricultural trade policies with their inbuilt bias of controlling consumer prices have implicitly taxed the Indian farmers for almost 2 decades now, contrary to the rhetoric of protecting their interest. Further, you will see that a state intervention in agriculture is much wider in scope and its extent, be it input, say, fertilizer, which is governed by one of the most complicated subsidy regime ever devised, or outputs. Government over the years have let out a complicated mess of regulations, excessive regulation, hurt not just agricultural productivity, but also farmers and eventually consumer. Even the breakthrough economic liberalization in 1991 could barely loosen the government's stranglehold on this sector. In fact, the same triple challenge India is facing as other countries. What are they? Number one, delivering safe and nutritious food to a growing population at affordable prices. Second, providing a livelihood for farmers and others in food chain. And third, overcoming severe resource and climatic pressures. The buffer stock with the FCI are far more than norms and the credit to the FCI from banking system is at uncomfortable levels. Therefore, it is a combination of factors that are responsible for the problems of agriculture. The prevalence of very large number of smallholders, low productivity, climate change, pressure on natural resources such as water, persistent food insecurity, and an underdeveloped food processing and retail sector. These problems are partly policy induced and partly related to other inefficiencies in the marketing chain. Farmers are the sole risk bearers of all the challenges that arise in the farming cycle. The problems of Indian agriculture are complex and interlinked, while the solutions are utilized between various departments of agriculture. There is a need to the thinking and approach towards addressing problems in agriculture that are complicated and structural in nature. Now I come to some aspects of agricultural policy. Now agricultural policies represent a set of mandatory regulations designed to achieve certain objectives. Farming cannot be left entirely to the play of market forces. The government will always have a role to play. Among the most disturbing divides of Indian agriculture are the sharply alienated perspective of those who suffer a problem and those who drive solutions. For promoting agriculture as a whole, different type of policies are required for different sectors. Agriculture policy formulation in India is very complex because it is a state subject, but some of the related subjects are in the union list. The state policies have to be formulated in accordance with the national objective. Various agencies are involved in the implementation of agricultural policy at various levels. Several agencies at the center and states are responsible for implementation of various components of agricultural policy. But you should notice that India didn't have a comprehensive agricultural policy till 2000 year. In that year, a national agricultural policy was announced. After that, in 2007, the government set up a committee that is known as National Policy for Farmers, which were headed by Professor Swaminathan. Now, this commission submitted its report and government accepted the report. But an interministerial committee in 2008 identified 201 points where necessary action was to be taken. However, there has been no real effort to implement its recommendations. In 2015, the Niti Aayog has fostered greater involvement of state governments in the economic policy process and has constituted a task force on agricultural development that has the responsibility to coordinate with the state and union territory task forces and the central ministry. Nevertheless, no sufficiently strong mechanism exists to bring a state and center level policymakers together to discuss problems, solutions, and monitoring performance. Now, actually, severe steps are needed to fill this gap. After 2014, the government has taken some policy measures to improve the system of agriculture, or you can say focus on different aspects of agricultural policies. These policies in nutshell relate to the freeing of agriculture marketing, agriculture export policy in 2018, then public investment in irrigation, where we now say har khet ko pani and improve water use efficiency through more crop per drop. Similarly, there is insurance scheme for farmers, incentivizing use of technology. Measures have been taken for 100 water estate districts in the country, changing the incentive regime through subsidies that encourage excessive use of chemical fertilizer to ensure balanced use of all fertilizers, taking care of viability gap funding for setting up warehouses, framework for development, management, and conservation of marine fishery resources, amending the Essential Commodities Act of 1955, facilitating contract farming, improving agricultural finance, emphasis on sustainable cropping patterns, investment in agriculture, organic farming, and lastly, doubling of farmers' income. These are some of the policies that the government is following since you can say 2014. So, however, India's agricultural policy have had multiple mandates, including a production imperative that leads to national food security, consumer imperative, keeping food prices low for a large section of population, and a farmer welfare imperative that is large input subsidies and income support through the PM Samman Yojana. The tensions between these mandates have resulted in costly, contradictory policies which have been increasingly borne by the farmers, the government purse, and the natural environment. As of 2020, the policy agenda or doubling farmers' income is a welcome departure. So raising farm productivity is critical for long-term increase in farmers' income. However, for political reasons, India's policy has not been able to on the idea of farmer well-being. Similarly, there are 6, you can say, puzzles in the Indian agriculture even today that relates to price, procurement, political economy, trade, productivity, and the near absence of exit. If farmers wants to leave agriculture, there are difficulties. So with regard to farming, the government must decide to do things in a rational manner. The solutions as actions with regard to agriculture tend to get political and fragmented. They do not lend themselves naturally to a holistic design by a single. For this, a visionary plan is needed. The approach should be to take into account the importance of policy in driving changes. Agriculture transformation has to be viewed more holistically in terms of in terms of rural transformation and urban linkages. There is need to give a big push to Indian agriculture for transforming farmers' welfare. So the idea today that India lacks a managerial focus framework to usher in the transformation that agriculture requires. India needs to focus on incentives for farmers and much else will follow. Policy interventions for post, you can say, this pandemic should be like this. First, promote income transfer policies over price support policies. Link the markets with the farmers. There is a need to transmit direct farm inputs to farmers, making sure they don't suffer financial losses. Some measures for compensating farmers need to be instituted. Along with income transfer policies, there is a need for reforming the public distribution system and agriculture markets. Technology mandated advisories through partnership between public and private sector could provide support to farmers in a simple, timely, and integrated manner. A 4-pillar model consists of university government extension mechanism such as Vikas Kendras, farmers markets is necessary for managing agriculture. A multi-pronged approach to understand agriculture better as the agriculture sector is impacted by and impacts the society, economy and environment. Agricultural development in India has come at a social and economic cost, such as climate change, environment pollution and malnutrition. To achieve sustainability in agriculture, there is need to acknowledge innovation and promote a smallholder agriculture. Strengthening agricultural markets, managing risk in agriculture, and improving the dietary diversity are the other components of the strategy. Policymakers need to pay greater attention to making crops grown in flood-prone, resilient, and finding solutions to natural resource degradation caused by water-consuming rice and wheat crops. There is need to unshackle the farming sector from the government licenses and creating public-private partnership for doubling farmers' income. Sustainable export policies and investing in cold storage are also crucial areas. A ranking system of agro reforms for ease of doing business in states should further enhance the farm to market business cycle. In conclusion, I may say agriculture has to focus on growth, equity, and sustainability. All these goals are interconnected. One should recognize that agriculture is a nationwide problem, but it expressed itself differently in different parts of the country, requiring localized suitable measures. A national consensus involving both union and states has to be built around a new approach. The new approach should be built around ending the dependence of farmers on the government for their survival because genuine farmers cherish their freedom. There is no doubt that intense cooperation between the center and state is a sine qua non for expeditious implementation of reforms in the agriculture sector. A holistic approach is needed to tackle the crisis in the farm sector. Agriculture is subject to a benign neglect. Further, I would say, what are the issues for discussion? Now, here we have to take into account how does one make effective policy intervention? Number two, should there be a single policy covering all aspects of agricultural development? Is it possible to have a rational policy for the agricultural sector? How, number four, how policies should be applied to agriculture in India? Next, how to set out the possible changes that make the policy set fit for the purpose. Next is how to implement a policy set capable of providing the institutions and incentives that the sector needs to meet its challenges. Next is, should there be a single policy covering all aspects of agriculture or how to achieve the objectives of doubling farmers' income? Now, this is what I wanted to say. But lastly, I would quote one renowned person who is no more. In long back, Professor Nadkarni said, policy decisions are not always taken on the basis of what is right and wrong, but through interaction between interest groups. Sustainable development cannot be achieved merely wishing for it or by paying of sympathy, but incorporating it in policy making and also implementation. Formulating agricultural policy and handling it is a complex task, since several interest groups and many issues are involved. These are considerations of equity, efficiency, and environmental soundness. It is important to ensure both growth and fairness. So this is what I conclude, and I'm thankful to all of you.
You have given a very informative knowledge about the agriculture. Thank you very much for giving us a precious time. Today, this webinar has been focused on the Indian economic renaissance due to coronavirus pandemic continue to have tragic consequence for the health of the citizen of the world at large. The virus has had a very large impact on the health of those domicile in countries in all around the world, with the extent of the impact on India also. Thus far being relatively contained if one were to look at it. While very tragic, the health impact of COVID 19 is clearly likely be just a pitch of that of the Black Death pandemic of the 14th century that wiped out 10 of the million of people from the face of the earth. However, in this present situation, pandemic could well rival Black Death, and when it comes to change of the societal and economic order of the world. If we imagine this tragedy that lays down the societal and economic development of the world, there is a Black Death in the 14th century in Europe, leading up to today's world where the global leadership is set to close borders and nationalize financial market. It reflects on where India stands in the picture with its resilience through generations of exploration by foreign powers, deep-rooted culture, legacy of thought leadership, diverse and tolerant populace, rich resources, unparalleled demographic, and entrepreneur culture that has constantly created and executed on opportunity and importantly very strongly leadership. Maybe this could well be Indians' Renaissance moment, one that uniquely take us back to the root of doing things right to take India and the world forward to the society and economic model for the future. At last, I would like to give a big thanks to my all speakers, those who have given their precious time. And I would like to give a big thanks to my Technia group of institution who has given us this opportunity to organize this webinar. My dear friend Dr. Vanna who has organized this webinar. Thank you to Director Sir who has given us this opportunity, and a big thanks to our Chairman Sir who has given us this opportunity to conduct this type of webinar to get the knowledge from the precious and knowledgeable professors, those who are in the India and a big university. My big thanks to Professor Dr. Ashok Mittal sir, Vice Chancellor of Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Agra. Thank you very much, sir, inviting us to visit Agra. Thank you very much to all my speakers, all my listeners who have patiently listened this program. Thank you very much.